Baylor has the chance to do the funniest thing ever and really rub Tech's nose in it again. Let's get locked on Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up there, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by Gametime and part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I'm your host, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas and the Cam Show on YouTube. Thanks so much for making it your first listen today and every day. It is chaos season, as if you didn't think it was that during regular football season. Well, now here we go. We've got bowl prep, we've got portal opening, we've got coaches getting fired, and we've got a major basketball game this week. So how about we keep it to this? Let's look at the Bears that are actually getting awards this week, the initial portal chatter that we have heard, and some potential big splashes for this Baylor team, and who they might be playing in a bowl game, or maybe more importantly, who they probably won't be playing in a bowl game. All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. Yes, the transfer portal has started. Okay, in terms of guys are declaring that they're going into the portal, and I even saw a couple of commitments today, which is lightning fast. But the shock of the week, of the first week of these players entering the transfer portal, the major shock in the Big 12 is at Texas Tech. Micah Hudson, the slot receiver, who was the biggest recruit they ever got. 5-star, everything across the board, one of the best receivers in the entire nation. Shocked everyone and kept with his commitment to Tech. And after his freshman year, he is entering the portal, according to Matt Zenitz, who is on top of all of these things. So that is a stunner out there in Lubbock. And talk about the news that they're making, the headlines. I mean, with the Joey McGuire calling out Kirk Herbstreit, to Tim DeRuyter getting fired, and now Zach Kitley is going to take the FAU job. But most of all, Micah Hudson, the biggest fish they have ever landed out of the pond, is on the move after 1 year. And Tech fans are all over the place in terms of, they didn't play him enough. This is why he's going to leave. He wants more money, yada, yada, yada. We don't know what it is. But what we do know is that he's out there on the market. We also know that Baylor is going to need to bolster wide receiver through the transfer portal. Ketron Jackson leaving, Hal Presley leaving, Ashton Hawkins leaving, all these guys who are going to graduate. We also know that Micah Hudson is a local product from Temple, a Lake Belton alum, was setting all kinds of records there. And we also know that there was, of course, like for many other schools in the country, a ton of Baylor interest when this kid was still in high school. Now, what stuck out to me was on Twitter Monday, Taz Williams, Red Oak receiver, put out a picture of him and Micah Hudson after a game with Red Oak and Lake Belton last year, early in 2023, a game that was on ESPN. And it was those two guys, wide receiver ones, wearing number one, that said, hey, why don't you come here and let's make some history? Let's change the game. I'm all here for it. I am all here for it. As someone who got to see Micah play in high school, this dude is legit. Like, he was getting NFL hype as a junior, senior in high school. And that's why it was so surprising that Tech was able to land him. He was so big on relationships and, getting along with the coaches and his teammates and a culture of a program. Last year and the year before, Baylor was not in that boat, right? They might have had some good relationships that, we hear about for the coaches to the players, but it was a culture that was absolutely in flux. Flash forward to the end of 2024, and they're no longer that. They are a culture that is building in a good direction right now. And the relationships between the coach and the players, it's tangible. It's leading to wins. It is leading to them having confidence at their darkest football hour. When they were 3-9 in 2023 and then 2-4 to start the season, clearly that message still got across to the players and they started winning. And where did they start with it? Well, yes, Lubbock, Texas, and knocking out Tech on their own home field, 59-35. And you know who might have made the best catch of that game in garbage time, but still, Micah Hudson. And he has a pretty good year for a freshman who doesn't get a lot of snaps in that offense. 8 catches for 123, 15.5 yards a catch. And every week it was something. Every week there were Tech fans all over social media saying, why is this kid not getting a touch? And we heard Joey McGuire before the season. They basically asked, when is the Micah Hudson impact going to come in? And he said, right away. He's too good not to play. And then they didn't play him. And now he's out there looking for a spot. And here's a team that's really close to home, that is really building something, that has a heck of an offense out there with a quarterback that will have no problem getting him the ball. And they just so happen to need a wide receiver as well. It's like the number one position I'm looking at as we go throughout this portal, because it's a skill position and Baylor's got to be a real attractive place for it now. And it's something they will need at least depth in, but you're talking about a bunch of guys outside of Josh Cameron who have not played the position very much, right? Again, Jackson, Baldwin, Presley, Hawkins, all graduating. So it is something they're going to need to bolster. I know you've got guys like Jaden Porter, the former Lorena star, who would be coming into his sophomore year. He got some snaps in the game on Saturday, but Micah Hudson will once again, for the second year in a row, have his choice. And I was critical in the past that Baylor did not recruit him hard enough. There was some interest there, but they were not nearly at the level of even a team like Tech, who has a pedigree very similar to Baylor's, and Baylor's got more championships in the last 10 seasons, and they were able to get him for a year, but they were able to get him. There's no reason that Baylor should not be pushing very hard for Micah Hudson and bringing in one of the most talented young receivers in America. Let's see what Gabe Brooks said about Micah Hudson. So they do these little mock-ups when they're still in high school of where these guys could go in the future, not just at the college level, because his projection for Micah Hudson as a senior in high school, first round NFL draft pick, reminds us of Garrett Wilson, the offensive rookie of the year from a couple years ago. Dynamic, high volume playmaker who can play outside or from the slot. Played mostly slot at Tech. He's 6'0". Lean, athletic build with sneaky, sinewy strength. Highly productive high school receiver who's provided big play punch, mid-air acrobat, capable of contorting in traffic to win contested throws, and then slippery strong after the catch. Dangerous cutback threat who can string together moves to befuddle tacklers well downfield. I mean, come on. Plenty fast, but another gear may exist at the top end for 4 years to prove to be one of the very best playmakers in Texas high school football. Projects as a high major impact playmaker with a long-term ceiling that could result in early round NFL draft consideration. And by early rounds, he did say first round. Like, come on, man. In his senior year, 70 receptions for 1,370 and 18 touchdowns on 20 yards a catch. Also ran for 160 yards and a touchdown on 20 carries. And he's getting double teams all season long against 6A high school talent here in the great state of Texas. This kid you're going to hear his name on Sundays for years. And Baylor has a real opportunity here. This is a kid who went to Tech a year ago, okay? Like, he's not just automatically, UT, Alabama, Georgia. Not like that. Now, it is going to cost Baylor some money. I don't know. I mean, there's talks of him wanting to go to get $6 million. I don't know what the truth is to that, but he is going to need some money to come and play anywhere. And this is a chance to prove that, hey, we are really intent on bringing this thing back to where it needs to be at Baylor. And it starts with the offense. Micah, what more could you want? One of the best offensive coordinators in the country, a guy who's going to have some real Heisman hype at quarterback, a dangerous run game that takes those double teams away from you. And oh yeah, we love putting up the points. And your family's going to be at every game, brother. Oh, there's not many teams that can offer, weird as this is to say, there are not many teams that can offer as great a package as Baylor can for a guy like Micah Hudson. So let's keep an eye out for that. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do they even have a shot at this kid? I think they really do. Now we're looking ahead to bowl games and who Baylor might not be playing because they're afraid to play the Bears. Let's talk about that next on Locked On Baylor. But first, let me tell you about Gametime. It's the only place I go to buy my tickets. I'm seeing the Bruins later this month, thanks to Gametime, after they actually hooked me up last month as well to go and see them in Dallas. So that's what I'm looking for. It's a perfect Christmas gift idea for a loved one in the family. I always say, go to the game if you have the shot. Gametime is going to give you that shot. You've got the all-in pricing that you could toggle on the app that shows you the price that you're actually going to pay. None of the hidden fees. You're going to be able to see your seat views before you purchase it. And it's got the lowest price guarantee. Your Gametime is going to credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDON, COLLEGE, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Oh, yeah. It's game time. Now we wait for where Baylor is going to go for their bowl game. Finishing the season with 6 straight wins, ending at 8-4. It's been an awesome turnaround, but there's still business to be done. Okay, this is not Kansas. All right, we play in bowl games. It's not Oklahoma State, okay, or Utah. We play in bowl games around here. Well, this year we do. And all the projections are coming out. Brett McMurphy is the one that people follow the most from the Action Network because he does a weekly bowl projection. And a lot of the experts are picking Baylor to go to the Texas Bowl down in Houston, something they've done a couple of times. Always a great time. You can get a bunch of Baylor fans in there. And it's not one of those New Year's days, but it's also not like December 23rd. It's after that. I think it's New Year's Eve again this year. Now, who they're playing is up for debate. Obviously, the invites have not been set out yet, but most of the experts have Baylor in the Texas Bowl against Arkansas or against LSU. Seen that a couple of times. The one that you're not seeing a lot of outside of ESPN is the only one of the major ones that I have seen that have gone with this, and it's Kyle Bonagura, who is doing this for ESPN. He has them going to the Texas Bowl and facing the Texas A&M Aggies. That would be awesome. That would be perfect for this really fun year where, you finally beat TCU again. You beat West Virginia and Morgantown for the first time ever. You're hotter than fish grease going into this thing. What better way to have a Texas Bowl, not a college football playoff or a New Year's Eve bowl, but to have that against Texas A&M and take back the Battle of the Brazos? That would be perfect. What more could you ask for? Baylor, A&M, Houston, bowl game. It's too perfect because it's not going to happen. Let me save you the trouble of the anticipation. Baylor's not going to be playing A&M in Houston for the Texas Bowl. And it's not Baylor's fault. This lies at the feet of the Aggies. They want no part of Baylor. They have no interest in playing the Bears. In fact, they're terrified to play Baylor in the Texas Bowl. It ain't going to happen. We have seen the Aggies dodge in-state opponents for years, regular season, postseason. They couldn't keep that UT rivalry alive for 13 years because they just had too much tough sledding in the SEC West. The SEC West is good, right? That's probably not going to happen. But how many times over the years did we see that projection, A&M and UT, in this bowl game, the Texas Bowl? Felt like every other year we saw that because those teams were 7-5. A lot. And the one I remember in particular is 2014. Texas played Arkansas in that game and had like 50 yards of offense. It was really bad. Arkansas killed them. And there was a ton of momentum for Baylor, or excuse me, there was a ton of momentum for Texas to play A&M in that game. I think A&M was 7-5, Texas was 6-6. It matches up perfectly for the Texas Bowl. Instead, A&M just magically had a date with West Virginia in the Liberty Bowl in Memphis instead. And that raised a lot of red flags, if you guys remember this, a decade ago, because it was like, why would that benefit them? Why wouldn't they play a game in their backyard with their biggest, alumni base and play an old rival? That's awesome. That's a real way to juice up what is otherwise a pretty forgettable bowl game. A&M didn't want to do that. They didn't want to play UT for the same reason they don't want to play Baylor this year. And for the same reason that they don't want to play TCU or Tech or UH or anyone else from this state. Because if they lose to those teams, especially outside of UT, because they're in the conference now, but if A&M loses to any one of those teams in state in a bowl game, they don't know when they're going to see them again. And they don't know how long they can hold that over A&M. Because for a decade, they wouldn't touch anybody in state at this level, at the FBS level, because they're in the big bad SEC and you're not. And we can use that excuse whenever we want, no matter how bad we underachieve, no matter how much money we throw at recruits and have the best NIL collective and have a national championship head coach, no matter how bad we suck after that, we can say, well, it's because we did it in the SEC. You guys, you just did it in your little playpen truck stop conference. And now they are going to avoid that at all costs because Baylor is one of the hottest teams in the country. They come in at 8-4 and they can beat A&M. They absolutely can. And A&M cannot handle that. There is no world where they will say, yeah, we'll just go and play Baylor in what is a quote-unquote meaningless game. Because if they lose to them, it could be another decade before we play A&M again. And they don't have the advantage over UT. They obviously do have the historical advantage over Baylor. And they got out at the perfect time to go to the SEC. Because Baylor was about to start beating that ass. They were about to start beating the hell out of A&M yearly with those Bryles teams. But they got out just in time. There's no shot they accept an invite to the Texas Bowl to play Baylor. No way. It'll be just like 2014 and a couple of times after then when they found another bowl game to go to that wouldn't have even suited them as well. 2014, they go to the Liberty Bowl in Memphis to avoid that UT matchup in Houston. Where does Brett McMurphy have them going this year? None other than the Liberty Bowl in Memphis to take on Kansas State. Because that won't hurt as bad. You know, they won't remember 98. This will be nothing. They won't hold that. We won't have to run into these people at work or on the road or at school. We won't have to run into any Kansas State Wildcats. But Baylor Bears, TCU Horned Frogs, Tech Red Raiders, we see those people all the time. We work with them. We coach with them. They're our nephews, our kids, our cousins, our brothers, our sisters, our parents. But Kansas State, no, it's not that way. We'll take Kansas State. We'll take it in Memphis too, to avoid being embarrassed by an in-state team in our own backyard. We'll take that. For what it's worth, McMurphy has Baylor playing Arkansas in the Texas Bowl, which would be a ton of fun. I mean, that's an old SWC thing. Arkansas's got a great fan base. They're also in a world of hurt right now. I mean, they're spiraling, that program, and they don't even want to be in a bowl game, I don't think. So maybe that's better for Baylor in terms of a guaranteed win, but it would be a ton of fun, specifically for this fan base. And I think for A&M's fan base too, to bring back the Battle of the Brazos in the Texas Bowl. But Mike Elko and Ross Bjork and the powers that be at A&M, no chance. No chance they want to do this. They have dodged the UT bullet for years, and you saw on Saturday exactly why they did that. They are not, quote-unquote, stooping down to the level of playing a in-state Big 12 team like Baylor. You know why? Because they're afraid. They're afraid of that embarrassment, and they are afraid that Sawyer Robertson and Bryson Washington and Josh Cameron and Matt Jones and Keaton Thomas and Caden Jenkins and Dave Aranda and their old pal, Jake Spavital, will BTHO the Texas A&M Aggies. But maybe that's just me. Let me know what you think. Let me know down in the comments below. And again, on YouTube, if you like the video, like the video. It helps out the channel a ton. But we will, of course, be monitoring exactly where Baylor is going to go in this bowl game and who they are going to play as that develops, specifically next week. Anyway, the Big 12, a conference I love, is finally recognizing that Baylor plays in it. We'll tell you how coming up on Locked On Baylor. But first, FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's how you might know it. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play, get all the data you need, so much more than that, on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Let's remind you again, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Some of you regulars might remember a couple weeks ago, which, by the way, I got a lot of regulars now. I do want to take a moment. I said it last week, Thanksgiving. I'm very thankful for those of you who watch and listen to the show every day. You everydayers, there's so many of you out there right now. This is the greatest run that Locked On Baylor's ever been on. And it's because of you guys, like genuinely. That's what keeps us going. So really appreciate the heck out of you guys. Let's keep those likes coming and those subscriptions coming. Because again, most of you that watch or listen still are not subscribed to the YouTube channel. So let's just get a subscribe. It helps out a lot. But anyway, I did mention a few weeks ago how Bryson Washington had the Big 12 Player of the Week robbed from him 2 weeks in a row. And that the Big 12 might not even know that Baylor plays in this conference. Now, great this offense has been. Well, now the weekly awards are coming in. They destroyed Destiny's Darlings, the Kansas Jayhawks, and now they're getting the recognition. Did Bryson Washington get Big 12 Player of the Week finally? No, he did not. He got Newcomer of the Week. That's just fine. That's just fine, which is a reminder that he's a redshirt freshman, y'all. We got a lot more Bryson Washington in our lives the next few years, and I can't wait for it. The co-Player of the Week in the Big 12 on offense, Sawyer Robertson of yours, mine, our Baylor Bears. 23 of 31 for 310, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Could have been his best game of the season. He's had plenty to choose from, but he was pretty darn good this year. I don't know if you guys caught that. He's been a big reason why this thing has turned around. And so is Bryson Washington, who was just 4 yards off his career high, 28 attempts for 192, 2 touchdowns, 7 yards a carry. Ugh. Talk about a bell cow, man. The amount of talent that Baylor's got coming back next year, specifically on the offensive side. You know, I talked about earlier in the show, all the wide receivers they're losing. Pretty much everyone else coming back. It is sickening how much they're bringing back. Sickening for everyone else in this conference. But it's about time these guys got the recognition. Are they counting the Big 12 Player of the Week awards on their mantle, like Ryan Gosling's dad in Remember the Titans? 5 times Player of the Week, 5 times. I don't think they're doing that, but it does feel nice to see these guys getting the recognition. Because, you know, the Baylor did not get into the rankings yet. They're not playing for the conference championship. They're not playing in the CFP. But what they've done in the back half of the season has been pretty incredible. And it's awesome that the conference is actually recognizing that they are the hottest team in the conference right now. It's them and Arizona State, above all else, as the hottest teams in the conference. And Sawyer Robertson deserves this. Both of those guys, Robertson and Washington, have been the reason, in terms of the player standpoint, why Baylor's turned this thing around, no doubt. And they have rallied around Sawyer Robertson big time. I don't want to say unlike anyone in a long time, because I think we saw it with Gary Bohannon. I think we saw it with Charlie Brewer. But it's an amazing thing to see. And Sawyer Robertson, no disrespect to those guys, Sawyer Robertson has more talent than those guys. Got more talent than Bohannon and Charlie Brewer. and he's got more potential at the college level. And then I think at the pro level, I think we're going to have to start having that conversation within the next year. But it's awesome to see them getting this recognition. And finally, the Big 12 admitting that, yes, the Baylor Bears do play in this conference, and they play pretty damn good football in this conference. Do you guys like that appreciation? Let me know down in the comments below, or tweet at us at LockedOnBaylor. And let me know what you think about this potential Aggie matchup, why it will happen, why it will not happen, and who the Bears should go after in the portal. Let me know down in the comment section below. Any comment helps. You can tell me how much you hate me and how bad I am at this, because I've gotten a couple of those in the last few days, which is great. I actually really like it because it means you watched. So let me know down in the comment section below. I appreciate you guys for making it your first listen today and every day. We've got old Sydney Wicker coming up pretty soon here. We're going to have to talk about a big-time matchup between the Baylor Bears and the still-ranked UConn Huskies. That's coming up tomorrow night. So stick here, like and subscribe, ring that notification bell, and get notified every time we're dropping a video on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And we will see you tomorrow on your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.